Hi everybody, I'm Momi Robbins Makayla. Thanks so much for joining me today. You know, since I started making these videos, I always created in the morning. But today, I started off my day not so good. I was just really tired from yesterday, and I am right now am in the middle of a ton of things. So I just felt super overwhelmed. Usually, when I feel like that, I can sort of get back on track, within the first couple hours of the day. But today just seemed like I just could not, get on track. So I tried to be as productive as I could, and you know, I did some things today, but it just was not nearly as many things as I'd wished that I could have done. But instead of having a crappy day because I couldn't get my stuff together, I still actually had a really nice day. And that is a huge celebration. I also, am choosing to do this at right now it's 12:25 in the morning. And it is, what is it, April, and it's not that cold, but I have the AC on in my office because I wanted to be cold. So please pardon the gear. I don't know. I think it was that kind of day where I need to feel sort of snuggled and warm. So anyway, I guess I should get to the to the verse today, huh? Anyway, I want to thank you for whoever will at any point in time in the future see this video. It is, I don't know, it's super cool, super calming for me to do these things because I'm talking to nobody, but I'm talking to the world, and I just want to say thank you for that. Anyway, let's get started with the verse. Now, the verse that we're going to talk about today is Matthew 8, and hopefully you've been watching the other videos and you know sort of the context and where we're at, but just a really quick synopsis. Jesus went onto the mountain. He was led by the Spirit. He got tempted. He fought the temptation. He resisted the devil. He came down the mountain. He delivered his discourses, which is really the Christian discipleship, that the tenets of Christian discipleship, and the advice that he's giving us in terms of how to live our lives. And I talked a little bit about this in the earlier videos, that it is advice. It's not warnings. It's not sometimes the kind of warning that I give my kids, which I'm not saying that's the right thing to do, but I do it. I say, don't do that or I'm going to spank you. It's not that kind of advice. It's the kind like, okay, look, if you take this path, this is what's going to happen. If you take this path, this is what's going to happen. I'm going to be here for you no matter what you do, but let me explain to you where the paths are going to take you. That's sort of the way that I like to read the Bible. That hasn't always been the case, because I used to look at God like the punishing God that I need to be like totally afraid of, and I don't look at him like that anymore. I see him as my dad that will scold me when I need scoldings, but will try and keep me on the straight and narrow. He knows in his head that I'm going to fall, I'm going to veer off track, and he's always going to be there regardless. But it's his job to keep me on track. So that's not what the Bible is not about, warning you because he's going to throw you in, the pit of hell. It's not about that. It's keeping you happy, keeping you on that path so you can get to where you need to go in the shortest amount of time. So that's the way that I look at the Bible. That's where we've been, in Matthew. Now for Matthew 8, it's all of the miracles that Jesus has been performing. And if you notice in all of the miracles, you didn't need to do anything but ask. Like the people in the verses, they didn't need to do anything but ask and expect to be healed, and he did. And so it's about him, or it's about people just receiving, right? Because he's willing. In the scriptures in chapter 8, basically Jesus is willing to do whatever it is we need to do. And that is, when I first realized that in the Bible, that was an epiphany for me, because I don't need to ask like meek and sort of, can you please, not like that. It's like a, hey, this is what I need, God, this is why I need it. please, I love you, that kind of thing. And it's like, okay, of course, he'll do whatever he can do. That's sort of the way that I take it. So let's get into the scripture. Okay, we're going to look at chapter 8, verse 1. I told you it was a long day, right? It's 12:30 right now. Anyway, okay, so when Jesus came down from the mountainside, large crowds followed him. A man with leprosy came and knelt before him and said, Lord, if you are willing, you can make me clean. Oh, I love this part, because the man with leprosy is sort of meek, right? He's sort of saying, if you are willing, you can make me clean. He's got tremendous faith, right? Because he knows all Jesus needs to do is want, and that's it, he can do it. So it's a couple of things happening here. Tremendous faith and willingness. Okay? So in verse 3, it says, Jesus reached out his hand and touched the man. Listen up. And he says, I am willing. That is awesome, right? That's awesome. And a couple of things are happening here. Number one is faith, right? Now, be careful. Don't think that I'm saying you have to have this unwavering faith in order to get blessed, because that is totally not true. There have been so many times I just worried to death and I still got blessed. Although worrying blocks your blessing, I just want you to know, don't feel like something's wrong with you if you doubt, okay? And we'll talk about worry and doubt in another video, but don't worry, okay? So, but a couple of things are happening here. Number one is the faith of the man with leprosy. Number two is that he's asking and Jesus is willing. Now, Jesus didn't say to the man with leprosy, well, how long have you had the leprosy? What did you do to help yourself out? Did you make sure that you did this and this and that? Because if you didn't do this, this and that, I don't know if I'm willing, to cure your leprosy. Jesus didn't say anything about that. All the man asked was, if you are willing, you can make me clean. So he had faith and he questioned Jesus' willing. And without anything else, he said, I am willing. That is awesome. Because if we know that Jesus is willing, then all we have to do is ask. Okay, so now the title of this video is, Does Receiving Make Me Selfish? I will prove to you, based on only Matthew 8, that receiving does not make you selfish. Okay? So anyway, that's 8 verses 1 through 4. I mean, it's awesome, right? Jesus is willing, and that's all you need to know. So ask and receive, and receiving does not make you selfish. Here's another example. The faith of the centurion. Okay, so the centurion is like a soldier, like a Roman soldier. Okay, and he is charged with, he's a leader. Okay, he is in charge of soldiers under him. Okay, and he's, like soldiers, right? Like police officers there. So that's the kind of authority that this man has. He asks, in verse 5, when Jesus had entered Capernaum, a centurion came to him asking for help. Lord, he said, my servant lies at home paralyzed, suffering terribly. And Jesus said to him, shall I come to heal him? That is powerful, right? Because he's saying, Jesus is asking your permission. He's asking you to invite you into his life, saying, shall I come and heal him? What would you say if your child was sick and Jesus says, shall I? You'd say, yeah, please. So invite him in and let him do the work. He is willing, like he just said in the verses before. Okay, so the centurion replied, Lord, I do not deserve to have you come under my roof. Okay, remember now, this man is a man of authority. He is a figurehead, but he is saying to Jesus, Lord, I don't deserve for you to do this, but you just say one word and my servant will be healed. That's faith. That's crazy faith, right? He knows that Jesus is the source of all healing. So all Jesus needs to do is say the word, and he knows that his servant will be healed. So incredible faith. For I myself am a man under authority with soldiers under me. I tell this one, go, and he goes. And that one, come, and he comes. I say to my servant, do this, and he does it. When Jesus heard this, he was amazed and said to those following him, "Truly I tell you, I have not found anyone in Israel with such great faith. I say to you that many will come from the east and the west and will take their places at the feast with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob in the kingdom of heaven. But the subjects of the kingdom will be thrown outside into the darkness where they will be weeping and gnashing of teeth." So basically, he's just saying, all you need is faith, and he is willing. He was willing in 8 verses 1 through 5. He was through 4. He was willing in 8 verses 5 through, 9. So he's saying to you, he is willing. Just have the faith. Have the faith in his willingness. You don't have to have the faith in anything that you do and anything that you are. Just have the faith in his willingness. So what does that mean? Do we need to be selfish for receiving? Absolutely not. Does receiving make us selfish? No, absolutely not. That makes us obedient. If we receive, it makes us nothing but obedient because we follow his word. His word shows us time and time again to allow ourselves to receive his blessings because he is willing. Okay, so now in chapter 8, verse 13, 14, 15, 16, all the way to, as far as I'm seeing, 27 right now, it's just miracle after miracle after miracle. Jesus is, in verse 14, he goes to Peter's house. He sees Peter's mother-in-law. She has a fever. He cures her. In 14 through 17, they didn't even ask him to do it. He just did it. Why? Because he's willing. They're receiving. Every single person who is blessed or who is in chapter 8 is receiving a blessing from Jesus. And almost always they didn't even ask. Like in the scripture where the centurion asked for his servant, the servant didn't even ask for himself. Jesus didn't say, well, yeah, I mean, I'll heal him, but he needs to be the one to ask me, right? I mean, who does he think he is? He's not over here asking me. You're asking me, right? So you don't even have to ask. Just be willing for him to come in and bless you. So again, does receiving make us selfish? Absolutely not. Receiving makes us obedient. Okay. So, again, throughout the whole chapter, throughout the entire chapter 8, it is examples of his blessings to us, how receiving does not make us selfish, it makes us obedient, and how we don't even need, and our faith, we don't even need to rely on our faith. All we need to rely on is his willingness. So that's chapter 8. I want to talk a little bit about receiving and selfishness and all that, because for so long I used to think, well, you have to make sure that you give more than you receive. Okay, it's sort of like a tally, right? Like you keeping track of how much times did you give. Okay, I gave 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times, so that means I can receive maybe 1, 2 times. Okay, there's no record keeping in Jesus's book. He didn't say, okay, I will bless you 5 times throughout the year, but after 5, that's it. So don't be pushing your luck. He doesn't say that. It's unconditional. Now, it made me think about the way that I give. And I think I'm a pretty giving person, but I know I can be better. But I think about sometimes how I put conditions and stipulations onto the giving. Like with my children, or with my daughters or my son. I think, okay, you know what? Like with my son Ricky Boy, like I tell him, okay, do you want this? Then you need to do this. And if you want to achieve this goal, then make sure you do this, this, and this. And while that's all fine and well, and that's appropriate at specific times, I think sometimes we blur that line where we just think everything is conditional. Like, okay, you do this and then you get this. You do this and then you get this. We have to remember to be able to receive, and we have to know that it is not selfish. Now, taking and receiving, that's 2 different things, because taking usually implies you having the possession of something without asking, or when you're taking it from somebody else, or it's not yours to take. But receiving is very, very different from taking. And I think too that women, we have a tendency to forget or to not distinguish between the two, besides the fact that we think we're supposed to give and not take. And so I hope that message was beneficial to you. I know that it was very helpful for me to study that and to, to just receive it, right? Receive that it is totally, totally being obedient to receive his blessings. And I just recently got that lesson, so I really wanted to share that with you. Okay, so like I try and remember at the end of every video, I want to share with you that we have books for purchase. If you would like to, they are available on downloadable format. You can go to alohamomi.org. The links are below. They might be up in the corners too. This corners. alohamomi.org. That's alohamomi.org. You can purchase the books for download. You make a payment, and then they'll be immediately available to your phone, your iPad, whatever device that you're using, desktop, of course. Excuse me. And then I also want to remind you that for every 1,000 books that we sell in a 90-day period, we will donate $500 to our Hawaii schools, our children. Not typically the schools. Like, we won't write a check to the Hawaii Department of Education. We're not going to do that. But we are going to look for opportunities and look for deserving children or needing children. And as long as what they're asking for will benefit them in terms of growing their background knowledge, exposing them to the world around them, making them more aware of civic responsibility, and helping them to grow their self-identity. If anything that they need is focused around any of those things that I just mentioned, then we are going to donate that $500. And this isn't going to stop. We're beginning. This is a new campaign, but it won't stop. And if we sell 2,000 books in 90 days, then we'll give $1,000. And if we sell 3,000 books in 90 days, then we'll give $1,500. So it won't stop. And as long as we meet our goals, then we'll be blessing somebody else with that. So, and then also we have our free magazines for download. You can go to napuamagazineshawaii.com. That's NAPUA Magazines Hawaii spelled out.com. And you can go there and subscribe to our newsletter so that we can give you updates. We also do Word for the Wise, where we do, just not daily, but a couple times a week, we do reminders to choose goodness. It's 1-minute videos, so it's really, really quick. And so go there, sign up for that. And if you have any, questions or comments, whatever, you can go ahead and email me at momirobbinsmakayla.com. Scratch that, rewind. It's mrobbinsmakayla@gmail.com. And but be nice, okay? Because I got feelings too. And I remember when I had like a really, really, really nasty, mean comment. It was a comment on my first book, and it was so super nasty. And I thought, what pathetic person to have to try and make somebody else feel crappy for sharing their experience. And I was pissed about that for a while, but then I thought I really felt sorry for that person. So but it hurt my feelings, so be nice. Anyway, thank you so much for joining me on these video series. I really, really, really appreciate it. And anyway, you have a blessed night. I guess it's 12:43 and I need to go to bed, so good night.